He takes the base.
4 minutes. You should be on the second person by now.
The first thing he said, he called people to La ilaha illallah. The second one?
Yes. So maybe
just as the punishment, which is let him feel. While the second one is love. The third one is hope. I mean, if you prevent yourself, and there's Allah is the pressure for Allah.
2 minutes.
which one should we okay, let's go back to
Oh, yeah.
Maybe tell them the repercussions.
I think it's the worst thing to do.
Like there's no butterfly.
You need to get that concern.
But some people, it's appeal to them like the fear, when like you threaten them by the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people walk with them, and some people doesn't walk. They say, let me enjoy myself now, and then I'll think about it later on. But so you need to...
Okay, 30 seconds. Very quickly, summarize. Okay. Question number 1, or scenario number 1. We have 3 people here. And we need to give advice to individual number 1, individual number 2, individual number 3. Individual number 1 is a person who is a non-Muslim. He knows Islam is something which is good for him, but he's unsure because it's too strict. What advice would you give to him? Let's start from the right here. What advice would you give to this person?
So we said that we start with Tawheed firstly.
Okay.
The ulama, they say that when you're giving dawah, the most important thing to start with is Tawheed.
Yeah, but he already knows about Tawheed.
Oh, he knows about Tawheed.
Yeah, because he's agreed, isn't he? He agrees with Islam. He knows about Islam. Sorry, I should have rephrased this. What I mean by here is he's accepted Islam.
Okay.
As in, like, he knows that this is something that is good for him.
Yeah.
So he's already got past this stage.
Okay.
But he wants to know. He thinks it's just too strict for him.
We would recommend that you take it piecemeal, so bit by bit.
Okay. So what do you mean by that? What would you say to him then?
So start off with, in regards to the practices, start off with which is what is easy for him, and then.
So you tell him to enter into Islam.
Yeah.
But don't worry about all the complications.
No, I would say don't.
Carry on doing what you become Muslim.
No, I wouldn't recommend that. So, for example, perhaps if he's an alcoholic,
yeah,
then I'd recommend that he stops. And then,
okay.
So those kind of things, and just rather than throwing him, go start praying fast salah every day because that might put him off. Perhaps maybe for Ramadan, encourage him to fast.
Okay. So what you're saying here is that you won't really give him advice directly. You would take this approach with him, yeah?
Yeah.
A gradual approach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going past this stage, I still don't understand what advice would you give to him, because he's now saying that he's not Muslim yet. So,
okay, then, of course.
You know what I'm trying to say? So, I mean,
okay.
What do you do? This is why it's so difficult.
To do shahada first. Actually enter Islam.
Okay.
And then.
So we go back to it. That's good. Okay, that's fine. Anybody want to add to this? Person number 1. Yes? What's your name, brother? Not you, this one. Sorry.
Me.
Yeah, what's your name?
Tayyib.
Tayyib, mashallah. Nice to meet you, Akhi.
Okay. So we thought that maybe we should ask him to do some of the practices for a week maybe.
Okay,
and feel
okay.
the spirituality around him. So when he will start doing some of the good stuff, like maybe praying, if not 5 times, maybe 3 times.
Okay.
If he stops drinking, he might feel the barakat around him.
Okay, go through a trial period.
Yeah.
Test it out. It might not be as hard as you think. Anything else? Nothing else?
Try to introduce him to some other Muslims, so I mean, who would feel maybe.
Yeah, but what advice are you going to give him? This is the question, not what you want to do, what advice would you want to give him? That is good, but I mean, what advice what is the da'wah that you want to give to him? You had your hand up first. What's your name again? Sorry, bro. Amir, yes, sorry.
So he's unsure.
Yeah.
He needs to be made sure.
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest you introduce him to where the rules, where the strict practices that he says,
Yeah.
where it comes from,
Yeah.
and its authenticity. And if he understands that, he might understand that there may not be.
Okay.
You know,
So give him more of an explanation as to
Yeah.
what Islam is about. One last point on this person. Anybody got anything else they want to add? Yeah, I think somebody had a hand up here.
I
Right,
was just going
guys.
to say about,
Yeah.
for example, what the brother said, take each point by point. Like for example, Salah,
Okay.
take 5 times Salah every single day,
Okay.
but then explain that it's actually only half an hour a day.
Okay.
It's actually like.
So it's a mixture of all three of these, really, isn't it? You take one bit in isolation, time to try it out, explain what it's about, and you might find it not that bad. Okay. Person number 2, what would you give to that person? What advice would you give to that person? Let's take this table over here. A Muslim is involved in a haram relationship. He's got no concern about giving it up. What do you do with that kind of a person?
I'm sorry, I'll take it.
No, that one there, sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. We said that we would mention to him the rewards that he would get for leaving this
Yeah.
haram relationship,
Yeah.
the punishment he may get
Okay.
by staying in the relationship,
Okay.
and like trying to bring him towards that from that angle, because obviously he already believes in the Quran
Okay.
and the Hadith, so I think that is reward and punishment is a good.
Okay, so reminders, specifically reward and punishment. Good? Anything else? Anybody want to add to this, Ibrahim?
Also alternatives, so getting married.
Okay, good. Alternative. Give him an alternative. That's a good solution. Okay. Anything else? Yes?
Understand his knowledge of the religion, why he may not know the consequences.
Yeah, the question why he doesn't have any concern.
Okay, good. So understand his mindset. Why is he so comfortable? What's wrong with him? Okay? Person number 3. What advice do we give to person number 3? Do you think this guy's the easiest one to give advice to? Huh? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, he might be more stubborn and arrogant than the others, maybe. But this person is a practicing Muslim in the religion, but we want to motivate him to do more. How would you motivate him? Young table over there had some good advice over there. What did you say? What was your name? Fi Allah. Excellent. Taqwa. He actually said taqwa. Encourage him, similar to this, encourage him to strive for Jannah and to fear your actions not actually being accepted. Anything else that you can say to this person? Yes, but
Stories of great Salaf.
excellent stories which will motivate him. I was going to say heart softeners.
Give him examples.
Good. Okay. Examples of people who changed their lives and became better and stronger. Yes.
I would almost the same, but I'm actually going to give him an example of Muslims current age who can't practice Islam. Show him how, blessed he is. That Allah has given him blessings and he could do more. And yet some normal Muslims can't even pray the 5 times a day.
Excellent. We've got a very good and strong board here. What do you think is the objective behind this activity that we've done? Do you think it's just like a nice group activity, or what do you think the objective behind all of this was?
Introduction to Subr.
How?
Because all of this involved, this person needs to have patience as well.
Chapter number 1.
Ikhlas.
Ikhlas. How do you know that you have Ikhlas, and what are parts of Ikhlas? And when you're calling to Allah, and you're reminding others of the reward and taqwa, and you're teaching people about the religion, all of that is included inside of Ikhlas. And some of the ulama have actually said that you know that Allah exists because you have the text to prove that He exists. Going back to explanation. You know that He exists because it is in line with your fitrah. I should put number 2 fitrah, not aql. But it's in line with your fitrah. It's in line with your intellect. The arguments are so compelling and it just makes perfect sense. Also, there is an actual connection. So now all of this advice that you can give to the non-Muslim, to the person who is a Muslim, who is falling a bit short, maybe he's not motivated enough, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can put in him Ikhlas through any one of these channels. So this person now, you tell him, seek the reward of Allah. Here's the dalil. That might work for him. It might not work for him. So then you might need to come through an aql approach. What are you doing? You're calling him back to Ikhlas. Worshipping Allah alone. This is another way of saying Ikhlas. Connection. Build it. Create something. This was the very first chapter. Then we had the chapter of Tawbah last week, and today now we have the chapter of Subr. And Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah has placed this, wallahu a'lam, in a very strategic manner. And some of the ulama have actually said that if you have internal connection with Allah, so I'll say internal, and then you have an external, and then you seek to maintain that, so we'll say steadfastness, there is nothing that Allah won't give to you. There is nothing. You have the inside, you have the outside, and you seek to preserve that. That's it. So when you enter into the doors of the Riyadh as-Saaleheen, what's the first thing that you see? You see the doors of Ikhlas. Then you see the doors of Tawbah. Then you knock on the doors of Subr. Because this is how it works. This is how your connection with Allah becomes stronger. Everything else then, from this Riyadh, will become very, very easy for you. Okay, as promised, I said you need your mushaf. I need you guys to open your mushafs now, another group activity. Chapter number 4 is... What's the fourth chapter? Surah Nisa, thank you. You can do this in Arabic, you can do this in English, as you please. Chapter number 4, ayah number 425. Can someone read out to me what it says in ayah number 4, Surah number 4, ayah number 25. You can say in English, you can say in Arabic. Yeah?
We have Brother Ahmed. He is the most
MashaAllah.
knowledgeable person.
MashaAllah. He doesn't need a mushaf.
He doesn't need it, yeah.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. See, MashaAllah, he's right. طيب. When you have these ayat in the very beginning of the 5th juz of the Quran and finishing the 4th juz of the Quran, is talking about how to have a halal relationship. Allah is talking about your maharim and those people that you cannot get married to. And then Allah is telling us, going into the 5th chapter, which is also still part of Surah Nisa, that you are allowed to marry other people who are not from this group of your maharim, as long as they are chaste and they're doing good and they haven't, broken their bond of inchastity, etc. طيب. This is ayah number 425. Then the next ayah, Allah says that Allah, what does this mean here? Anybody got the English there? 426. Allah wants to make clear to you and wants to guide you. Allah wants to make something clear to you and He wants to guide you. Ikhlas. We've seen this order when Allah is talking about steadfastness, when Allah is trying to take you away from sins, when Allah is trying to take you away from your weakness. And we will see this. The very first, within this sequence, Allah says He wants in 3 ayat in quick succession in Surah Nisa. Allah wants from you, Allah wants from you, Allah wants from you. Your Lord from above the 7 heavens, who has ever existed, always, eternal, and will continue to exist, wants from you. What does that mean for you now? That means self-rectification. That means a bond. That means a connection. That means honor. That means nobility. That means Jannah. In this ayah, Allah wants to explain something to you so that He can guide you. Then the next ayah, 427, the very beginning, what does it say? Nahid, you got it there? Oh, you got it in Arabic? Okay, go on then. Allah wants to accept your repentance. What did we do last week? In the very next ayah. The first ayah before we had Ikhlas. In this ayah we have now the Tawbah. And the next ayah now. 28. Zulay, you got it there? What does it say? What does that mean? Allah wants to give you a way out. Allah wants to make things easy for you. Allah wants you to be steadfast in the most easiest way because He is gentle. He is generous. He doesn't want hardship for you. But He wants you to pass. And that passing is not going to be easy. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفٌ. This is how we are. This is our nature. But here we have a quick succession of steps here. We have Ikhlas. We have Tawbah. And we have Subr. And through this, Allah will make you strong. But it's upon us, my brothers. Today's chapter here, we have Riyadh as-Saaleheen, the third chapter of Riyadh as-Saaleheen, which is patience. And Imam al-Nawawi begins with these ayat. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sabiru wa sabiru. Be patient and enjoy even more, so that you will become successful. Patience equals success. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. And Allah has told us that if you are tested, what does that ayah say? Can someone bring it up? 2155? What's the translation there? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. What does that mean? Does it say if you are tested? Did it say when you are tested? What does it say? You will be tested. There is no doubt about it. There's no person on the face of this earth except nobody. There's no even exception. Even the Prophet ﷺ himself was tested with fear, with hunger, with deficiency in wealth, in poverty, in himself, in his health, and all of these things. But what happens? What happens at the end? Again, look here, Allah is telling us, begins with something. You have iman, have sabr, this will happen. You will be tested, no doubt about it, in all of these things. But what happens? Rejoice, success. Some of the ulama have said, when we see this next ayah, that sabr has no reward. What's the reward? You just prayed Salat al-Maghrib in Jama'ah. What's the reward? 25, 27. If you give in, if you recite one harf from the Quran, how much reward? For each one you have 10. Sabr, do you have a reward? Is there a measurement? Is there a calculator? This ayah is a blank check. إِنَّمَا يُوَفِّي الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرُهُمْ. No hisab. There's no hisab. Allah has left it open. There's no fixed reward. Allah says on that day you will come, and then that's it. Ibn Rajab Hanbali rahimahullah said the day of Eid is not the day of Fitr and Adha. For the people who have sabr, based on this ayah, the people who have sabr, their day of Eid is when they meet Allah. That's the day when they will rejoice. If you have sabr and you pardon, then that is the greatest of all affairs. Now we're talking about how it affects your personality. Not only does it affect your mindset, but it affects your personality. Now we're going back to these people here. Now the only way that you can offer advice is if you've got that advice in yourself, isn't it? If you don't have something to give, how can you give it? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. What's the proof in here? What's the benefit from this ayah that he's mentioned here? Where did you get sabr from? Huh? Where did you get sabr from? You get sabr from ikhlas, and you get sabr from these aspects here. Sta'inu bis-sabri, and then what? Kasal, salat, ibadah. You get assistance with sabr and worship, not laziness, not wishing, not wanting. You actually have to do something. And Allah is going to test you to see if you are fitting to enter His Jannah. You want His Jannah, you say you believe in Him, you say you believe in the Rasul, you say you're proud to be a Muslim, you want to have a Muslim house. All of those things are cheap with Allah unless you have to prove yourself. And as we will see, sabr is very important in the life of the Muslim. And in fact, in this chapter, Imam al-Nawawi brings, how many hadith do you think they have in this chapter? So far we are hadith number 25. We've done 2 chapters, so it's around 12 each, 13, 12. In this chapter, he's got 25 hadith, double than the previous 2. So it's extensive, and we're not going to have time to cover every single hadith, but we're going to look at what he is mentioning here on these statements of the Prophet ﷺ. This hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "At-tahur shatr al-iman," and that iman now the Prophet ﷺ is beginning in talking about iman, and he's talking about azkar, and he's talking about all these things that are going to be beneficial for you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. But here, the sabr is going to be a light for you, a light. This is one of the virtues, and this is what he starts off with. Number 26. There's an incident that happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of the Ansar came asking the Prophet ﷺ, "Give us some from Bayt al-Mal. We need some food. We need some drink." And they went and he gave. They went and he gave. They went and he gave. Third time the Prophet didn't have anything. What did he say to them? It's better now for you to have sabr, because nobody is given anything which is more comprehensive, which is a greater gift than having patience. How wonderful is the case of the believer. The Prophet ﷺ said, every single affair of yours, if you are patient, then it's going to be khair for you. If you go through a time of difficulty, then you're patient. You're waiting. You're waiting. You know that the relief is going to come from Allah. As long as I keep steadfast, as long as I keep trying to do the right thing, it will come. Undoubted. But what is sabr when you are not going through any hardship? When you have prosperity, what do? You give shukr. And this is another form of giving sabr, because you are remaining steadfast. It's very easy now for somebody to give you £1 million and you losing your head. That requires sabr also. So now here we've just opened up. We've got 3 basic hadith. I'm sure you've heard of them before. They're very virtuous. They are hopefully encouraging us to have sabr. But my question now to you now, 2 minutes. What is sabr? You can use your phones, you can use your internet, you can use your brains. What is sabr? How would you explain what sabr is if somebody comes to you? 2 minutes. What is sabr?
Sabr is to hold yourself back, and to like your wounds, your tongue from any action that indicates that you hate the decree of Allah. But accepting the decree of Allah is rida. And that's where we distinguish between sabr and love.
First one, I think, is worship, righteous deeds. Number 2 was so the third one was when you go through hardships, patience.
But I need to take cable away.
Yeah, so when you go through hardships, being patient through the hardships, that's accepting the decree of Allah and do you need the light? I got this. Any plugs in it?
It's just there. Okay. What is patience? Let's start with the Sheikh's table. What is patience, Sheikh? You guys do talk. What is patience? Patience. How do we define what patience is? Yeah.
This brother has.
I agree.
He's written it.
They are displaying patience with each other. I
Yes.
think. Mashallah,
Practicing.
mashallah. Anybody want to offer a suggestion?
So there's three types of patience.
Okay,
The first one is patience for obedience of Allah's commands,
okay,
like Salah, Zakah, Hajj.
okay,
And you have patience in not disobeying Allah's commands.
okay,
So you committing sins and stuff, you be patient through that.
okay.
And you be patient with the decree of Allah. So whatever happens, you're content with the decree of
I'm glad you mentioned that because we're going to get to that. But this is more to do with the types, isn't it? So we're going to come to that. Huh?
Steadfast.
Steadfast. Okay, then what's the difference between sabr and thabat?
Sabr is to prevent yourself, prevent your tongue, your whims from acting against or any indication that you hate the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Habs al-nafs. Excellent.
Habs al-nafs, exactly.
Preventing yourself is the definition of sabr. But now, what does that mean? Do you think you have sabr? Do you think you have sabr? Genuinely, because this is what we want to get from this. We don't want to just listen to some hadith, have a nice time and go home. We need to really come to these circles and evaluate our situation. Do you actually have sabr? Yes.
Everyone would have a different stage of sabr. Like everyone would have a certain limit of sabr.
Okay, what do you mean?
Like someone can endure a lot and someone can't. Like everyone's capability of doing sabr would be different.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah? Excellent. Patience is the key to success. It's good, but that's a virtue. I'm talking about how do you know that you've got sabr?
When you're afflicted by calamity and a hardship, and you prevent your tongue from complaining to other Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wailing, or like for example, getting angry, that's definitely
Accepting and tolerating the results.
Accepting the situation.
And or like for example, if someone passed away and you start striking your chest and.
So now we've got a definition as to what sabr is. It is to prevent yourself. Stop yourself. You want to do something haram? Stop yourself. You want to do something haram because something has happened to you? Stop yourself. You want to be lazy? Stop yourself. Put the blanket off and go. Go pray Fajr. Like Ustadh Ariff is saying here, this is a very good example as to what Ibn al-Qayyim is talking about. How do you know that you've got sabr? Here is the litmus test. Here is the way that you can find out. When somebody does something bad to you, when something bad happens to you, when you are told to do something good, do you have a hatred from inside? I don't know what I'm writing, it's already there. Do you have something inside of you that's helping you to prevent yourself, or helping you prevent yourself against your desires? Do you have that? Only you know the answer to this. Yeah? Starts from inside. Then, if your child continues to be naughty, if that person continues to cut you off in his car, if that person is continually annoying you, do you just like forget it and say, you know what, I'm just going to say something? And what I'm saying is the truth. There's nothing wrong with it. That's not sabr. That's not sabr. Even when you think you are saying the truth, you could still be backbiting somebody. Not to utter foul statements when you are in that state of trying to prevent yourself. It starts off inside. You really want to say something. And I want to say it so everybody knows how bad this person is and what he did to me. But then you stop that as well. Good. But then how will you behave afterwards? You could just be like, in your head, this person's done something really bad to me, and I'm not going to tell anyone, but I'm going to do something really bad to him, and nobody's even going to know. I might give him bad advice. I might put him in a bad situation on purpose. Nobody knows. None of that is sabr. And we see this over again. My husband is doing this, my wife is doing this, and they come and they complain and complain. Yeah, but I'm being very, very patient with him. I'm very patient. That is not patience. Ibn al-Qayyim said, you do not know what patience is because you have not defined it in yourself, and you are not able to implement it internally, externally, and in your actions, or in your statements and in your actions. There's a hadith here which ties in with this, and it's actually quoted by Imam al-Nawawi, Hadith 31. And this ties in with this because your sabr is your initial reaction. You're driving down the road, you're 5 minutes late, and somebody cuts you off. What do? Does your blood boil? You start hoarding? You want to cut him off again? You go to his bumper? Patience is when you first receive the shock. When you receive that shock, how do you behave? Can you do that? You are sabr. Washir is-sabiri. That's it. You're successful. You just need to be steadfast on that now. But you need to understand what it is in the beginning. Some of the Salaf said, your whole Iman, your La ilaha illallah, when you meet Allah, has 2 parts. You have those 2 parts successfully, it will be put on the right scale. You will go to Jannah. If you have this. If you have 1, then it's going to be deficient. If you have 2, but both are deficient, then it's going to be deficient. The more complete it is, the higher and the more heavy the scale, then the higher your place in Jannah. What are those 2 parts that make up your Iman? Sabr and Shukr. And this is what we saw in this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that this hadith describes your life. There is no situation that is outside of this for you. If you have sabr. When things are easy, what do? Relax. Do you become lazy? Do you become negligent? Do you become forgetful? If you do that, then there's a problem here. There's a problem here, and then there's a problem here with that half. But some people, they become excellent. Fast, saf, fajr, salat, tahajjud, everything. Fasting when things become difficult. When things become difficult, they'll show the sabr. But when things are easy, they won't show the shukr. And sometimes people are the opposite. This is why this hadith is so comprehensive. And this is not except for anyone except for the mu'min. When it is difficult, he is patient. He continues doing the right thing. When things are easy, he continues remembering Allah and using that thing that he has given out of service to Allah. And this is how he continues to get closer to Allah.
Could you say that sabr brings you closer to Allah? So I think it's Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah ma'as-sabirin.
Yeah, there's many ayats, of course. All these ayats bring us closer. Sabr is one of the biggest acts of worship that you can do. And this is what the Salaf have said, that your greatest acts of worship, salat, siyam, and all of that goes down to 2. And it depends on what situation you are in your life. Ease, shukr. Hardness, sabr. There's nothing, there's no in between, is there? There's no in between, you know?
How can you improve your patience?
How can you improve your patience? First, you need to know what it is. Then, you need to work on this. It's quite simple when it's there, black and white. But this is what it is. Prevent yourself from doing what is not right. And encourage yourself to do what is right. Start off from inside. If something comes to you, repel it. Just repel it. Make azkar. Remember Allah. Remember Allah. Pray salat. Go back to making dhikr and worship of Allah. This will help you. If it's still very difficult and the waves of fitna are going over and over, maybe it's a very difficult trial, think. Prevent yourself from speaking. Think. This is sabr. This is sabr. A very close family member of ours was taking critical condition last week into hospital. May Allah cure them. Amen. That person, when they went to the ambulance paramedic said they're not going to make it by the time they get to the hospital. A very bad heart situation, they're not going to make it. People were crying. People came from all over the country. Came from this country, Germany, came to our house. People were saying, and they were being very pessimistic. And it's very easy for you to just jump in and start saying pessimistic things. That person is still alive. Back then, they gave him half an hour. Not even that, 20 minutes. That person is still alive. It's been 10 days. Still alive. And they want to discharge them. Optimism. I could have, and it was very pessimistic, and it was very dire, and even the doctors were Muslim, and he was coming and saying, look, auntie, uncle, it doesn't look very good. Start making a preparation for janazah, start doing what he's saying. This is how they're talking. This is how they were talking. And it's very easy for you to get sucked into this, But this is where the patience comes. Control yourself. Think about the consequences of your kalam, of your speech. What is the implication? It's easy for you to go and say what they've said, but right now your family members need you to be positive. Right now that person on the bed, whatever the situation is going to happen, they need to remember Allah. They need to be remembered to say La ilaha illallah. We all need to be given that level of reminder. And then you don't behave with other people in a bad manner. But it has to start off. You're not going to get to there if you don't have that. It's not possible. People behave in a manner because of what it projects from inside. Allah says in the Quran many places, had their hearts been opened up even more, then you would have seen that their hearts are even worse than what they say. Hadith number 28, moving on. We have an incident where a woman had a close family member pass away. Another narration, it was her son. And here it says, father. Oh, sorry, this is the narration of Fatima. Sorry, there's another one that comes here about a woman who was crying over her son. Fatima, radiallahu anha, she was crying over her father. Her father said to her, this is the end. And when Jibreel came, gave her the option, he went. And then when he passed away, she said these words of poetry, and she was reassuring herself. My father, you had a choice, but today, after this day, there's no distress for you. I'm going to miss you, but after this day, there's no distress. Allah has called you, and you responded to His call. Oh Allah, for you, oh Father, for you is the Jannah. And when he was buried, are you satisfied now that you have put earth? And now she said that to one of the companions. She was saying that, are you satisfied now that you've buried my father, alayhi salam? Well, some of the reflections that I wanted to gather with this is that you look at early on in the chapter of Subr, Imam al-Nawawi is bringing death. And the greatest form of death, obviously, is the death of the Prophet ﷺ. And if we realize that, we have these rhetorical questions here. Has there ever been anything that is perfect in the dunya? Name one thing that has been perfect, absolutely perfect.
Just this one.
No, but that's going to finish as well. It's got Allah put it here as a rahmah for us, but He's going to take it away. Is there anything in the dunya? Okay, has there anything ever been everlasting? If the Prophet ﷺ himself was not immortal, then what about the rest of us? We are all going to be affected, and every single one of us needs sabr. Every single household. Fatima with her father. Her name is Bint Rasulullah. Imagine Yawm al-Qiyamah she's going to be called Bint Rasulullah. But they need sabr. This incident here is of that woman that I was talking about. She lost her son and she was crying, and the Prophet ﷺ told her to have sabr. This is a different narration here, sorry, messed it up again. But the Prophet ﷺ is talking about having mercy towards one another. And this is a great form of sabr. But then here we have this incident of the boy the monk. Does anybody know the story of the boy the monk? Surah Buruj. There was a boy, there was a monk, and there was a magician. You're smiling. You're getting there. There's a boy, there's a monk, and there's a magician. At that time, they couldn't practice Islam. They couldn't practice any kind of Tawheed. So this monk, he was hidden. So this boy was sent to the magician to learn magic. What did he choose? He chose to go to the monk. So what he was doing is that every single day, instead of going to the magician, he was going to the monk. So he's going back home. His parents think he's been to school to learn magic, but in actual fact, he's been to the monk to learn Tawheed. Eventually, they found out. So the king obviously got very angry. He said, "What are you doing? There's only one person that's going to be worshipped. That's me. Turn back from your religion." They killed the monk. The boy is still alive. So now the monk has told him that you are going to be more successful than me. You're going to be in a stage where I didn't get to. You're going to have to preserve the religion. You're going to be responsible for those people behind you. Sabr. Long story short, the king tried to kill this boy over and over again. He was not able to do so until the boy taught him a word. If you did this, then you'll be able to kill me. And he did so. And then what did he do, the king? He gathered all the believers. He made a trench. He lit it with fire. And he threw them in it. Do you think Burma was the first time this happened? People being burnt alive? And it probably won't be the last. But what happens is that there is a girl, a young baby child, suckling, cannot even speak. She says to her mother, "Have patience, for your reward is Jannah. Get into the fire." Allah made a miracle happen to these people because of their sabr. Sabr is steadfastness. But what we learn from this story, and this is a good quotation that I found of Ibn al-Qayyim, that sabr is only given to those, and what we learn from this story directly, sabr is only given to those people who Allah chooses to give it to. It's not a label that you can just put and say, "So Abu, look at me." It doesn't work like that. Anybody can claim. But if you don't actually know what it is and you're not implementing it, then it's just speech. And that speech is not going to bring you any closer to Allah. It's just a label or a tag that you put for yourself, and it's making you feel happy, but you don't really have it. How can you have sabr? What's the greatest step for you to get sabr? We've seen a bit of Ikhlas, but look what Ibn al-Qayyim says here. Worship is the best of all cures. Everyone is created to go through struggles and can only get it, sabr, through Tawheed and Ibadah. That's what these people do. Imagine somebody said to you now, you and your family go in the fire. You've got no choice. There's no human rights, there's no regulations, there's nothing to protect you. Get in the fire. What are you going to do? And I'm not saying this is hypothetical, this is actually happening to Muslims around the globe. But the only way that these people are going to be successful is if the akhirah is between their eyes. But they've already put themselves in a mindset of preventing themselves against the disobedience, being happy and conditioned with the decree. But this is also very important. This is what we're learning from this hadith here. You can only get through the struggles through Tawheed and Ibadah. Hadith number 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. I want you guys to read this in your groups. 2 minutes. Let's see if you can get some benefits, and then we'll discuss them together, inshallah. 2 minutes. Read them together. What benefits can you get from it? It's already 8 o'clock. Yeah. Hadith 32 is saying that the people of Jannah are those people of Sabr. And they are my slaves, Allah Jalla wa Ala say. Hadith number 33. Hadith number 33 is talking about the steadfastness that is given to the shaheed because of his level of sabr. Hadith number 34 is talking about sabr again. When you are taken away his eyesight, when you're going through an extreme level of difficulty, you have patience. Again, another trend that we're seeing in all three hadith now. Allah will compensate you with Jannah. Hadith number 34. This woman, she had epilepsy. And she came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, get a cure for me. He goes, I don't have a cure for you. She said, make dua for me then. He said, I'll make dua for you, but if I don't make dua for you and you have sabr, Allah will give you Jannah. She said, okay, just give me one dua. And when I have this epilepsy, that my aura doesn't get exposed. That's the only I want. This is also part of the sabr, the connection. I can still recall, as if I see the Prophet ﷺ resembling one of the prophets whose people scourged them and shed their blood. And on the day of Uhud, the Prophet ﷺ was taking blood away from his face, and he was saying, forgive my people, they don't know what they're doing. Forgive my people. They're trying to kill him. Shaitan came on that day and he shouted from Mount Uhud, Muhammad is dead. It was a great deal of fitna. Many people went back to Medina thinking that they've won. The munafiqs were there taking those people back to Medina, the companions. There were only 12 roughly left on top of Mount Uhud defending the Prophet ﷺ, and it became so dire that some of these people thought that Muhammad ﷺ was going to die now. That's how the situation was. And the kuffar were trying to launch an assault on him. Iblis is there himself saying Muhammad is dead, Muhammad is dead. Abu Sufyan is saying that we have Uzza, where is your Uzza? We have Lat Manat, where is your Lat Manat? And the Prophet ﷺ is still being steadfast, and he's wiping, and they attacked him, his teeth got broken, and he's wiping the blood from his face, alayhi salam. Did he get angry? Did he swear at them? Did he insult them? He was making dua for them. What do you think from these 4 hadith? What do you think? Could you give me a rough summary about some of the benefits that you can get from these hadith? It's too late in the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go on, Ibrahim.
Prophet demonstrated the best of patience.
Yeah.
He's the best example for patience.
Excellent. Okay. One thing, getting directly to the point that Jubair was saying earlier, is that there's 3 types of patience. What's the first type? What's the first type that all of creation have to some degree? Which one?
Obedience.
1, 2, or 3? Obedience. Excellent. You don't have to say La ilaha illallah to be an obedient person. True? Does everybody stop at a red light? Do the kuffar wear seatbelts more than even some Muslims do? It's possible. And I even remember having a discussion with one of the mashayikh, and he was saying that you live in a country where everybody is following the law even when the police aren't looking at them. That's strange, because that doesn't happen in my country. But he was saying that it is possible though, that some of those people disobey the law when the law are looking at them. Maybe they make tax returns, they don't do it properly, certain things that they're doing, maybe they take drugs and these kind of things. But the Muslim, this is an act of obedience to Allah. That seatbelt is an act of, because Allah is watching you. You put that seatbelt on, it's sabr. You might not want to do it, but it's sabr. What happens? It becomes an act of worship. Irrespective if the policeman is there or not. Irrespective if the law can see you or not. So my point here now, this number 1, everybody has that level of sabr. Our level of sabr, bi'idhnillah, should be more tolerable because we're doing it for the sake of Allah. What's number 2? A level of sabr that only the truthful can have.
Yeah, the decree.
The decree. Ibn Rajab said, everybody can do good deeds. You go to the masjid, you find good people there, you find bad people there. You go to Yom al-Jumu'ah, you'll find people who are going there on that same night, they'll be going out to the club or something like that. On that same Yom al-Jumu'ah, you'll find people engaging in riba, doing zina, doing drugs. They're there because it's Yom al-Jumu'ah. Everybody can do good deeds. The person who can stay away from bad deeds is the person who is truthful. Because he knows how to prevent himself. And then the last one is the person who is patient on the decree of Allah. And this shows that Islam is a religion of problem solution. Yeah, Islam is not rigid. Allah will put you through a situation, whether it's in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa, Saudi Arabia, or England. Not all of the rules and laws will be the same because Islam has a solution. So when something difficult happens to you, there is a solution. But also, this one tells us that not everything is not as it seems. You go through an illness, you go through difficulties, you go through hardships, you go through ease. It's not as it seems. You could be granted a very new job, £50,000 a year. You might think this is something of enjoyment. It might not be as it seems. That's why this one, decree, is also a huge part of preventing yourself in falling. Hadith 37, Hadith 38, Hadith 39 is again talking about difficulties that a person goes through and the hardships. And most of these hadith that he brings in Riyadh as-Saaleheen in this chapter is talking about sabr when it goes through hardships. But what we learn from this, the hadith number 37 kind of summarizes the other two as well, is that whenever you go through a level of hardship, your sins are being wiped out, if you're having sabr. And if your sins are being wiped out, you are also getting reward because of the things that are accumulating from it. Let me give you an example. If, for example, you are going through a hardship and you've got an illness, you go through that illness, you have sabr because you have that illness. Then what you will do, maybe that will encourage you to make more dua. That maybe encourage you to make ruqyah. That maybe encourage you to do more extra good deeds. So not only will it expiate, but it will also give you the leg up and the push up that you need. So sabr, what are some of the consequences of sabr? We have at least 3 consequences of sabr. When you have sabr, Allah will expiate your sins. That's found in these hadith, quite explicit. When you have sabr, Allah will raise your rank in the dunya and in the akhirah. And it's because of these tests, you could be in level 99 in Jannah. Allah gives you a huge test in your life. It's come from nowhere. Maybe it lasts 2 years, maybe it lasts 10 years. That level 99 all of a sudden becomes level 50 in Jannah. It's possible. Your level in the dunya and the akhirah is increased, your status. And Allah Jalla wa Ala, when you have sabr, Allah will replace it with something better. One of the 3, maybe all 3. Hadith number 40, 41, 42 are again talking about difficulties that the Prophet ﷺ was talking about. Here we have the day of Hunayn. But what we learn from these hadith here, I mean, like I said, we haven't got much time, so you can read it in your own time. 40, 41, and 42 is where the Prophet ﷺ is talking about fitna occurring. And in this hadith number 40, the Prophet ﷺ said in making dua, like Maryam did, is that if you think, oh Allah, if you think staying alive for me is good for me, then keep me alive. But if you think me passing away, then make me die upon Iman. What we learn from this is that sabr and tests are needed, because without it, you will become something which is very whimsical. Without tests, you don't get to realize your own status in life, what you actually are. An imperfect and a dependent creation. Without test, how do you know what the truth is? Without test, how valuable would Jannah become to you? These are things for us to think about. And again, I'm rushing it. I didn't want to do it like this, but I'm very sorry. Hadith number 43, Hadith number 44, there's about 10 hadith left. When Allah wants something good to happen for a person, He will test him. And here is an incident of a child that was born to Abu Talha. And Sulaim, she was looking after the child passed away. When Abu Talha came home, the child had passed away, she didn't tell him. She made him food, she made him comfortable. She went to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ made dua, and Allah granted them another child. Abu Talha was patient, but look at the level of patience that Sulaim had. She lost her child, but she didn't panic. She didn't run around Medina. So this also tells us now, and this is what mentioned by Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, also, that there's levels of sabr, like Tayyib was saying. The first level, whenever you go through a difficulty, the very first level is the level of it being wajib. Of it being wajib. When something bad happens, be patient. That is wajib upon you. If you're not going to be patient at that level, then you could be very sinful. Right. Is that where it stops? No. What we learn from this hadith here is she learnt how to give thanks for her loss. She was patient, and then she said, "Thank you, Allah, for testing me. You took my son away, thank you." Not only did she say thank you, she had a love for being tested. Because she knew that this is from the decree of Allah, and this is what how Allah is going to expiate me, how Allah is going to raise my rank, and how Allah is going to give me something better instead. But how can you get to that level if you don't have the things that come before it? Hadith number 45 is somebody who is strong, who is good at martial arts. He can jump over a cage and hit someone else. The Prophet ﷺ said, the person who is strong is the person who can control himself. Ibn Qayyim, look what Ibn Qayyim said, rahimahullah, that a wise person does, from the very beginning, what a foolish person does 1 month after. That makes sense? Something bad happens to you right now. The wise person acts in that way. A foolish person gets to that level after 1 month. How? What does the foolish person do? There's no sabr. He starts behaving in a manner that is not appropriate. He'll start saying things. He'll start doing things. Maybe he'll retaliate with people, etc. And then after 1 month, after 1 week, he will say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I'm very sorry. Don't take my belt away." He will then realize how foolish he was. But the wise person, from the very beginning, he will know how to control himself. 46, 47, 48 is again the same thing, where the Prophet ﷺ is telling us how to control your emotions. The emotions that are being used here are anger. If anger comes to you, say, "A'udhu billahi shaitan rajim." The person who suppresses himself, Allah will give him from any of the pleasures on Yawm al-Qiyamah that he can choose from. Allah will call this person Yawm al-Qiyamah. Everybody is there. They will say, "This person, he used to control his anger. Stand up, choose whatever pleasure you want from Jannah." A man was asked the Prophet ﷺ, "Advise me." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Pray salah, be good to your mum." What did he say? Don't get angry. Prevent yourself. Now we have taken some of the ways of how to get closer to Allah. So you can say, "Yeah, I'm going to have sabr and appreciate what Allah has given to me and love it, etc." But what do I do about the disobedient part? You've told me, okay, decree happens, have sabr, okay, I think I can do that. Yeah, just control myself. Obedience, yeah, fair enough. And this is what the rest of the book is all about, how to get closer to Allah. And that's, a huge ocean in itself. But brother, I've got some problems. I've got weaknesses. People with big beards, they're praying 5 times salah, they've got weaknesses, trust me. Sisters have got weaknesses. Everybody's got weakness. We're living in a world where it's absolutely very difficult to find somebody who has no weakness. How can sabr help me? How can it rehabilitate me? How can it reform me? And again, that's what I'm trying to say. These sessions are not just hadith sessions. We come, we go, we have a nice time, and we're gone. We need to walk out that door with better people. Ibn Qayyim is giving you here some practical steps on how to remove sins and lust from yourself. It could be a want, it could be money, it could be an opposite gender, it could be music, it could be anything. Number one, you need to know who Allah is, and you need to know what the sin is. What are you doing to yourself? Why is it haram? Come to that realization. Admit to yourself that there is something wrong. And Allah, my creator, knows better than me, and He said it is haram. So why is it haram? Let me find out. If I can't get the answer from this mufti, I'll go to that Maulana. If that Maulana can't give me the answer, I'll go to this sheikh. But I need to find the answer. The answer is there. There's a very good answer for it. I need to find it. This will get me closer to Allah. Wallah al-Azim, I know one person, he was smoking for about 20, 30 years. He went to Medina, and people were telling him, brother, look, just stop smoking. It's not good for you. You're going to get cancer. You're wasting your money. It doesn't smell good. You come to the masjid like this. He had one talk, and he was telling me, he had one talk. The sheikh was sitting right next to the Prophet's grave. And he was telling the person, the questioner came through, and it just so happened that he had the same question in his head. I'm smoking cigarettes, how can I give it up? I can't do it. I've tried, it's just too addictive. What do you think the sheikh said? Brother, just give it up. Brother, you're wasting your money. Brother, think about your family. None of that. He didn't say any of that. You know what he said to him? He said in his advice to all those people that were listening, maybe about 100, 200 people in Masjid al-Nabawi, he said, what are you going to do when you stand in front of Allah? Your feet are not going to move until you've been asked about your life, how you spent it, your youth and how you developed it, your wealth and where it's gone. Are you going to meet Allah talking about Marlborough and Benson hedges and all these things? What are you going to do when you meet Allah? And that was enough for him. And he came back and he had a firm resolve. Now he knew what he said to me. What he said to me is, what I need to do is change my routine. Brother, when I wake up in the morning, straight away, I don't even have breakfast, nothing. I have a cigarette. Sometimes in Ramadan, I have a cigarette to break my fast. Yeah? I need to change that. That mindset, I need to change it. If I can change it, replace it with something else, then it will be there. But I need to know what it was that needs to be changed. Why is it so bad? This is amazing. Don't think about the sin. Think about the one who you are sinning against. Don't think about the sin. Don't think about me. Why are you thinking about yourself for? You don't listen to music? Why are you listening? What? You know it's bad. You know the Sharia has told you it's bad. You know other brothers, if they saw you, they'll think, oh, come on, what are you doing, brother? Don't listen to music. But you want to do it yourself. But when you were switching that on, you were just thinking about yourself. Ibn Qayyim is saying here, stop. Think about the one you are disobeying. Think about His majesty. Think about His glory. Think about the size. Think about His mercy. Think about His power. And then think about yourself. Now put that into context with your lusts. How feeble are your lusts? How weak are you that you need a cigarette just to become happy? That you need to listen to music to become into a different mode? Ibn Qayyim then says, if that doesn't work, think about the blessings of Allah upon you. Ishaq ibn Rahoya, one person came up to him and he was sinning and he goes, give me some advice. He said, don't eat, don't drink, don't go to sleep, don't breathe, don't walk. How am I supposed to do any of those things? Because you wake up in the morning, you breathe Allah's air. Then you drink Allah's water. Then you eat Allah's food. Then you walk on Allah's earth and then you want to disobey Him. Think about the things that Allah has given to you rather than thinking about all the negative things that you want to do. Think about the consequences of your action. Instill love and a connection, because what that will do is it will replace your desires. The stronger the love, the more engulfing it will be over the desires. Give yourself self-respect. When you are doing that thing that is haram, the Prophet ﷺ has told us there's certain sins that are so bad that Iman doesn't stay in your body, it comes out. It's still connected to you, but it comes out. When you're doing zina, may Allah protect us. When a person is stealing, when a person is doing his intoxication, the Iman literally comes out of his body. Why? There's no respect. There's no respect. It doesn't deserve to be inside of him at that moment. Give your Iman respect. Teach your Iman to yourself nobility. You have that, you're a Muslim. Your soul is a Muslim soul. Your soul, angels come down every Fajr, every Asr to your soul. They look at what you have done. They take it. Where do they take it? They take it to the arsh of Allah every single day. Fajr Asr. It travels a distance of between each skies. How many skies? What's the distance? 500 years of travel with your deeds every single day. That's how noble you are with Allah. That's how noble you are with the angels. How noble is your iman with you yourself? Don't live hoping to see the dunya, because the dunya can go any minute. It happened to the best of creation. It happened to Fatima. She's telling us from her own self, my father was Rasulullah. My father was the Sayyid Bani Adam. He is the leader of mankind, but we went through it. Don't be deceived. This dunya is going to end any second. Nobody knows. How long you got left? 30 seconds? 90 seconds? They told her 20 minutes. She didn't know. Don't be excessive in... This is a very important one, because we're living in this age of indulgences. And we even talked about this last Friday, where a person gets into something which is permissible, and he thinks, yeah, this is good, you know, this is good, it's halal, you know, I'm kicking a ball, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going out and having a laugh with my friends, and we're having a nice meal, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But when it spirals, and it becomes an addiction, and it becomes every Friday night, and it becomes until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you can't wake up for Fajr, when it becomes bad, then what happens is that thing that is mubah becomes bigger, and it becomes haram. And that indulgence, you are tricked, because alcohol is haram, you know it. This is a halal form of indulgence, addiction, which will help you to lose satisfaction of the akhirah. So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, program yourself to be satisfied with just a little, you will have sabr. You'll be able to remove. Some of the people say that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted power and he wanted women. Do you hear this? You hear this? He wanted power and he wanted women. He forced women to marry him, and he wanted power and he wanted to take over everyone. He just wanted to kill everyone. One of the biggest answers that some of the ulama give is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he passed away, for a period of months, he never had one meal. No meal. Aisha for months said that there was no fire in our house. Water and dates. The point that I'm making here is that if you can satisfy yourself with a very little, then how would you be attached to the dunya with a lot? Does it make sense that Prophet ﷺ was this crazy warlord that he wanted to take over the whole world and he wanted power when he couldn't even give himself a small meal? He could have any meal that he wanted. He could have any woman that he wanted. He could have any city that he wanted. That was not his objective. Likewise, it's not our objective. When you make satisfaction in a little for yourself, you will find sabr. You will leave sin very easily. Hadith 49, 50, we're towards the end now. Hadith 49, 50, 51, 52. The Prophet ﷺ is talking about different virtues again about sabr. But here he's talking about the fitna that happens towards the end. And Hadith 52 explicitly, Prophet ﷺ said that you're going to see a lot of trials, a lot of difficulties. Have sabr until you see me at the hold. He told his companions, that's it, I'm gone. I won't see you again. If you die upon Iman. Some of his companions, now look at this. People were in Medina. Did all of them die upon Iman? Many of them joined Musaylama al-Kadhdhab. They were with the Prophet for years. After he passed away, they apostated. The point here is if you don't have sabr, your family members don't have sabr, it is very likely that you will never see them again for eternity. The Prophet ﷺ is saying to them, be patient so that I can see you again at the hold. If you are not patient, what's going to happen? Never see you again. What are some of the effects of sabr? And again, this is taken from a collection of different things. We're going to end with this, inshallah. When you have sabr, it will create a good connection between you and Allah with a strong level of tawheed. A person will be able to reflect upon his sins and his own deficiencies, not whatever that says. No, I spelled it wrong again. He's able to reflect. He's able to self-criticize himself. He is getting reward by going through all the hardships in life. Because he knows that nothing is compared in this dunya to the hardships in the akhirah. He has a chance to elevate himself. The more sabr he has, the more pardon he has of his Lord, and the greater status that he will have. So it might seem that he's being humiliated, but actually not. He's actually being raised. It trains you to love Allah and not just to do good deeds for a personal reason, for a personal agenda. You will become valued with Allah. You will become valued and Allah will mention you in name. You can improve yourself, you can improve your soul. But I'll leave you with this now. And there's more, but I don't want to go into it too much. What have we studied today? We've looked at sabr and we looked at how you can become a better person. We looked at how you can get closer to Allah, and we're looking at how it can raise your level and expiate from your sins. Final advice, don't be like those people who have very little sabr. It's very easy for you to think, okay, from now on, I'm not going to do that sin ever again. So you go home, and a little whisper comes to you. Don't be like that one who's just going to give in straight away. That's the sabr there. Prevent yourself. Don't be like those people who can't fight. Control yourself, because remember, life is a test, and the greatest gift, like we saw in the Hadith of Prophet ﷺ, can be given is sabr. And Jannah is not cheap, and the only way you can get through it is by having Ikhlas, Tawbah and Subr. Ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all. Excuse me for being very lengthy in today's lesson. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Any questions? Yeah, of course. So inshallah. So next week we're going to look at another chapter from Riyadh, as-Saaleheen, and I believe it's the chapter of truthfulness with Allah.
Also, you can make a Muslim, they can't find the notes on your website.
That's right, yeah. If you go to Ahl al-Dhikr, if you want these notes, they are posted on this website here. Ahl al-Dhikr blogspot. If you go here, you will find all the posts that we have every week. These are just different posts that we've got going on a weekly basis, but these are the notes. So you'll find a tab on the right hand side, Riyadh as-Saaleheen anyway. And feel free to have a look at anything else that you want to look at. But the tab is here for Riyadh as-Saaleheen. Okay. Barakallah feekum. Barakallah. Yes,
Inshallah, we'll go and pray Isha together, Jama'ah.
That's fine. Yeah. MashaAllah. Excellent.
He's at home. Well, he's not at my home, but
oh, he lives here on campus, yeah?
I live in town.
Oh, MashaAllah. Okay.